The Tolkien Road, Episode 93, The Lord of the Rings, The Road to Isengard, Part 1. All right, go ahead. The Tolkien Road, 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 the Tolkien Road of Tolkien, the 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 Road of Tolkien Tolkien Road.
The Tolkien Road.
The Tolkien Road. Hey there, fellow travelers. Welcome to the Tolkien Road, a long walk through Middle-earth. On this episode, we continue our journey through the Lord of the Rings with the first half of Book 3, Chapter 8, The Road to Isengard. Before we get started, why not hop on over to iTunes and leave the Tolkien Road a rating and feedback? It's a great way to show your support for the show and takes less than a minute. Or you can stop by TolkienRoad.com, learn about previous episodes, and say hey. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/TolkienRoad. Thanks for listening and enjoy. Hello everyone. Welcome to the Tolkien Road. John and Greta here.
Hey, hey.
Lord of the Rings, Book 3, Chapter 8, Part 1, The Road to Isengard.
Road to Isengard.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Ready to rock and roll.
Yep.
Couple of things to say before we jump into the discussion of the chapter. First of all, so we've got our Patreon thing going, had it going for a couple weeks now. We got some folks over there helping us out, and
Yep.
They're awesome.
Totally awesome.
They are, they're my heroes in my book. You know what I'm saying?
Heck yeah.
They put the wind in our sails. So we want to say thank you to them. And one of the things we do for those who are patrons, which could be anyone listening to this right now, right? For as little as $2 a month, you can be a patron, and you get bonus videos, and you get, and then you get into a drawing, a monthly drawing for a special prize. So we're gonna do that special drawing right now.
Oh,
All right?
sweet.
So for our first special drawing.
Okay.
And so the winner is going to have their choice of either of one of 3 Tolkien books. They can choose between the Tolkien Reader, which contains like Leaf by Niggle and on fairy stories and some other stories as well. Or they can choose the Lays of Beleriand, which is one of the History of Middle-earth books, which contains like the poetic form of the long poem form of Beren and Luthien, and also the story of Turin, the long poem version of Turin. Or they can choose Smith of Wootton Major and Farmer Giles of Ham. So
Those are all really good choices.
yeah, why are you pulling out a notepad?
I don't know. I need to write you a message.
Oh, okay.
But our listeners can't hear it.
Oh,
so...
that's right. You probably forgot to tell me what the secret word was.
I forgot to tell you what the secret word was.
Yeah. All right. Well, while you're doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and.
You're gonna do a drawing?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask Siri to give us a random number.
Okay.
And it's a random number between 1 and 9, because we got our 9 patrons. And
I didn't know you could ask Siri to do that kind of stuff.
you can watch this.
That's cool.
Hey Siri, pick a random number between 1 and 9.
Random number between 1 and 9 is 5.
All right, number 5.
Number five. Why does Siri have an accent on your phone?
I chose her to be British.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I got a new iPhone recently, so
You're a lucky duck.
I was setting up Siri and I saw you could choose the accent, and
That's neato.
yeah.
So who's number 5?
Oh, number 5.
You're keeping me in suspense. I
Number
can't
5,
take it anymore.
our 5th patron was Margaret Lyon.
Margaret,
Lyon.
you're our winner.
So thank you, Margaret. Thank you for your patronage.
Thank you so much.
And we will reach out to you and find out which of those you would prefer.
Yeah.
Right on.
Good luck choosing. Because
Yeah.
they're all really good.
Yeah. So
Really good options.
So I'll reach out to you, Margaret, and see what see which of those things you'd prefer. So
All right. I'd say Margaret's Day is off to a pretty awesome start.
Congratulations.
Heck yes.
You're winning today. All right.
Way to be a winner.
That's right.
And all of you could be winners. All you have to do is sign up at Patreon.
All you gotta do is be a patron, and you're gonna get all kinds of cool stuff.
They're already winners in my book
Yeah.
because they listen to us.
Mm-hmm.
But they could take their winning to the next level through Patreon.com.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Sure. Way to
yes.
make everybody that's not a patron feel like a complete loser. Nice.
Hey, I'm not
Nice
a patron either, so I'm in the same boat.
That's nice with you. All right. So
what's next?
Oh, well, that's a good secret word.
Mm-hmm.
What a brilliant secret word. So let me say one more thing about patrons. So we're gonna have our first. So we've had some bonus videos up on the Patreon site.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to tolkienroad.com and see these, and they've been free so far, just to give you all a little flavor
Flavor Flav.
of what you're gonna get.
What happened to Flavor Flav?
I don't know. Let's not go there.
Okay.
I'm not sure it was pretty. Whatever it was. So today we're going to be doing our first bonus video that is for patrons only, but it's easy to get access to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the subject of this video was a question submitted by Shannon Stockbridge, who was our very first patron, and she asked the question, I'd really like to know more about the origin of the Rings of Power and what happened to all of them. So we're going to discuss that over on
good question.
Patreon. So if you want to watch that video, head on over, and you can see what you got to do to check it out.
Nice.
So pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
All right. Correspondence.
That's right. I am the captain of correspondence.
Captain Correspondence. By the way, sorry about the there's some background noise probably that's normally not there, and that's our space heater because it's really cold where we live today.
Yeah, we actually got snow yesterday.
Yeah, or the White Death.
The White Death.
Some prefer to call it. For here in Tennessee, we get like a little bit of it, and it's just like it's like the apocalypse.
Yep. Yep.
So
life as we know it just stops.
Yeah. So anyway, we've got the heater on, in full blast because it's otherwise we'd get really cold really quickly.
Right, and then the background noise would be us chattering and shivering.
Yeah, but
would not be fun.
But I'm already kind of hot, so I don't know. Maybe we won't keep it on the whole time. But you get cold easily.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, whatever.
All right.
We'll figure it out.
We will figure it out.
Yeah. So, correspondence.
Yeah, we'll do it. So what do we got?
Yeah, so first we have a really awesome, we had a very complimentary comment left on truemyths.org. Is it .org?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I wrote .com, and I was like, I don't think that's right. Okay. So this comment is from, I don't have his name. I'm assuming it's a he. But anyway, he... from Rock Monster at gmail.com.
Right on.
So he said, I should have figured this out. I think it's a he. Yeah, I'm almost positive it's a he. So he says, Hi John, I recently left you a review on iTunes saying how I'd enjoyed having you both guide me through the Lord of the Rings and was thinking about getting the Silmarillion and going all the way back to the start. I have now done this, stopping during the fellowship and going all the way back to episode 1 so I can enjoy the full journey along with you guys. In doing so, I came to the episode in which you respond to a negative comment that was left, and I felt I had to respond to this further. I know how it feels to have people put down your creative efforts and how it can give voice to all the negative doubts. I realize this is also now ancient history for you, as this happened back around episode 5 or 6, and you're now closing in on 100. But no matter. I thought you dealt with this very impressively, and your defense, as if defense were needed, of your efforts was very powerful, especially your quoting of C.S. Lewis. For my part, I am new to Tolkien and do not as yet have anyone to share my enthusiasm with to make it complete. My other half is unimpressed. But your podcast helps fulfill that need for me. Yes, there are others doing similar things, and I have downloaded those also. But I feel that I've begun my journey with you and will end it with you also before listening to others. Your enthusiasm and creative efforts have led to someone in rural Scotland picking up and becoming engrossed in the Silmarillion who otherwise probably wouldn't have, and I'm pleased that some unkind and unhelpful words have obviously not put you off. Long may you continue and hopefully cover the entire works of Tolkien in the long run. So that's awesome.
Thank you very much.
That's like some super duper wind in our sails right there.
Yeah, and that made me realize. Let's see if I don't know if I've read his comment on here. Maybe. Well, I've. It looks like I've read the most recent one, but anyway. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Rock Monster.
Yes,
And
thank you.
I just have to say, like, it, and you know, yeah, you know, I think just going back to that episode from way back when, that, you know, it does feel like a little bit of ancient history now, but yeah, you know, the great thing is there's really, like, you know, it was only first starting out, there was maybe a few somewhat negative comments directed, and I don't know, I don't begrudge people, like, you know, I know that sometimes, you know, it can look like maybe people are there's a lot of people that talk about Tolkien out there, and maybe there's some people who are not creating or wish they had more time to do stuff that was just talking about Tolkien's stuff. It can seem, you know, it's easy to get a little bit envious or something like that, but I'll tell you, like, it's hard work to do this podcast every week, and so, you know, you really got to go into it with the mindset of a labor of love, and I just, you know, Greta, from the beginning, I just really wanted a venue to go deep into Tolkien's works with, and, you know, there's been times where I've wondered, like, you know, we have a good number of listeners right now, but, like, there's been times I've wondered, like, if we didn't have this many listeners, would I still do it? And I think, you know, at the end of the day, as a creator, you just got to have this mindset of, like, yes, I want to create. Like, I've got something I feel like I need to create. And it's that whole, like, Field of Dreams thing. If you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
Maybe that will happen, maybe that won't. But, like, there might not always be these, like, you know, huge, you might not be filling stadiums to hear people talk, for people to hear you talk about Tolkien, right? But it's just about the creative process itself, and
Right. Yeah.
and if that brings fame and fortune and all of that kind of stuff, that's wonderful. If it brings nothing but the fact that you've created this thing that you're proud of, I mean, that's really what you've got to be driven to do.
Absolutely.
And and for me, it's just, I'm so grateful for Tolkien and the man he was, and the thoughts he expressed in so many different ways, and the works he wrote. I mean, he's just an inspiring figure to me, and brings me a lot of consolation, and, you know, as I try to get my own creative processes done. That's, I don't know, that's kind of just me giving a long-winded response to, you know, a very kind comment. I also want to say, like, I have no idea what it's like in rural Scotland where you live, but
I'm sure it's
I have this
beautiful.
vision in my mind of what it's like, and I kind of want to live there.
Yeah.
Or, you know, at least go visit sometime. I've always been fascinated by, like, because you think about southern England, and it's probably, like, really kind of, there's probably, you know, it's probably, like, kind of crowded because, yeah, London down there is a huge city and everything. And, but then you get up north, and it just seems like there's, like, this it's like the Highlands, and, you know, there's, like, just it's all surrounded by the sea, and there's all these, like, little towns and everything like that, and I don't know. There's something appealing to me about the idea of living up there. So I don't know what it's like, you know, for Rock Monster, but you know, what they always say, it's like wherever you know, every place sounds cool, or except the place that you actually live right now.
Grass is always greener.
Anyway, blah 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 blah.
Yeah. Right.
But thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very, very much. Great hearing from you.
Absolutely.
That's the kind of stuff that keeps us going.
All
right, so next bit of correspondence, Shannon Stockbridge.
Right on.
Correctly guessed the secret word from last week's episode. Good job, Air 5 Shannon. Whoosh. So it was resolution. Resolution it was. And we thought it would be fun if Shannon would like to, that she, since she was the first one to guess the correct secret word, if she would like to choose our secret word for next week's episode. Yeah. So Shannon, if that is something that you would like to do, we would love it. And you could just shoot me an email at tolkienroadpodcast@gmail.com, or you could communicate via patreon.com. So I know that you are one of our patrons. So, if that is something that you would like to do, please choose our word for next week.
Right on.
Yeah, and thank
Right on.
you for indulging my secret word fascination.
Mm-hmm.
All right, then we also, Mary Grace, also guessed the secret word.
Nice.
What was funny about hers, I got her email after Shannon's, but she said that this is what she said. She said, I believe the secret word for episode 92 was either the, or resolution.
Nice. I was gonna say who's the first Joker that's gonna say it's
Yeah. Yep. So that would be Mary Grace.
Nice.
And good job guessing, Mary Grace. Keep guessing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's going to be our thing, is whoever can guess it first will get to choose the word for next week's.
Right.
All right. And then Mary Grace also shared that she wanted to say that with regards to the Road to Isengard chapter, she wished that Peter Jackson had done a better job on this chapter in the movie. She said, I would have liked to have a marbles in my mouth. I would like to have a visualization for some of the details left out. So I don't remember the movie very well.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you do.
It's been a while since we watched it. Since we watched The Two Towers. Yeah, I'm trying to think of. Well, we'll go back and we'll do it. We'll do like we did with The Fellowship, where once we finish The Two Towers, we'll go back and watch the movie version.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I knew that was the plan, but I thought that was
that might be a
interesting.
little while before we get there.
Right.
Yeah. Jackson's movies, I mean, overall, I'm glad we have them. Very glad we have them, in fact. They're a mixed bag, in terms of, especially for the Tolkien purist. But in filmmaking, I don't know anything about filmmaking. I mean, it's an entirely different game than writing.
Absolutely.
One of my biggest gripes is that Tom Bombadil is nowhere in Fellowship, which with his he's not central to the plot. Even Tolkien admits that, but with as much of a role as he plays, it's kind of a shame,
Yeah, I agree with that.
So.
But I mean, it's kind of like, where are you going to draw the line?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't, unless you're going to do like a mini series.
Yeah.
Right. You can't fit it all in. So.
Yeah, Mary Grace, welcome to the world of being a purist. It's a hard road you're gonna walk, because artists get a hold, filmmakers get a hold of things that your favorite writers wrote, and sometimes they do a great job with them, sometimes they leave something to be desired. Yes. Sometimes they leave a whole lot to be desired. So. Yeah.
It's I just read a really great book over Christmas. I know they just made a movie out of it, but I've decided I don't think I want to see the movie, because I loved the book so much. And nothing, like, I haven't even read any reviews of the movie. I don't know what it was like. But yeah, it's kind of one of those calls you just have to make for yourself, Yeah. Will the movie add to my enjoyment of the books, or will it, detract? And it's, you're not required to see the movie, but sometimes it can add, and sometimes it doesn't. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to watching the movie again. But I totally get Mary Grace's frustration there. Yeah.
She also had one other question, which I think you're going to have to answer.
Okay.
She says, will you ever do a deep dive on the Palantiri, or perhaps on Gondor as a whole? You may have already covered some of that in past episodes, but I thought I'd ask. Yeah,
definitely. We're there will definitely come a time when we'll do a deep dive on the Palantiri.
Who are the Palantiri?
There's not a who, it's a what. They're the Seeing Stones, right?
The what?
The Seeing Stones, right? The little balls that are like set in different. We've talked about this on past episodes.
Oh yeah,
they're set in different locations.
Yes.
So that the people who have them can like communicate with each other over long distances.
Okay.
Right.
Thank
and
you
they're actually going to come up in one of the very soon in Lord of the Rings. They're gonna come into play in a pretty big way. So.
Okay. Well, there's your answer, Mary Grace.
But to answer your question, yes, we will at some point there's so many things we want to do special episodes on.
Yeah.
Our main goal right now is to get through Lord of the Rings, and eventually we want to do The Hobbit and that kind of thing. But I think we'll do a couple of special episodes probably between book 3 and book 4. Do a couple of little interstitial one-offs.
Right on.
There.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
All right. Something to look forward to for you, Mary Grace.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, let's see. What do we got next? Any other correspondence?
Nope. We have some haiku, but
yeah,
I'll save those for the end, as usual.
All right. Well, any correspondence you got? Send it over to the captain of correspondence, Greta here, TolkienRoadPodcast@gmail.com. All right, Chapter 8, The Road to Isengard. Overall impression so far, Greta, of this chapter?
Of this first part of the chapter? Not a whole lot of action.
Yeah.
I mean, we learned some interesting stuff, and there's some great dialogue, which I love. But they don't get very far on the road to Isengard in this first part, do they?
No.
No. I didn't
Good point.
think so.
But they're talking a lot about considering traveling the road.
Yes,
to
they
Isengard.
are, and they're enjoying being in each other's company, and they're kind of catching up and preparing, which is all important part of the trip.
The road has many meanings to it. Like the road there's the literal road to
there's
Isengard,
the literal
and there's the how do they come to be going to Isengard?
Right, it's the preparation.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's not a lot of action per se, but I think the things they talk about it's good stuff. I mean,
I'm not saying it's not good stuff.
There's some interesting developments, and
Yeah, and honestly, after all the crazy action at Helm's Deep, it's kind of nice to just a
little breather,
slow the pace a bit.
Yeah.
Catch your breath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good balance.
Amen to that, sister.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, opening up the chapter, opens like this. So it was that in the light of a fair morning, King Theoden and Gandalf the White Rider met again upon the green grass, beside the deeping stream. There was also Aragorn, son of Arathorn, and Legolas the elf, and Erkenbrand of Westfold, and the lords of the Golden House. About them were gathered the Rohirrim, the riders of the Mark. Wonder overcame their joy and victory, and their eyes were turned toward the wood. So, it's kind of all these folks are meeting up. Gandalf was nowhere to be seen until the very end of the last chapter.
Right.
In fact, Theoden was maybe even starting to doubt that he was going to actually come to assist them.
Yep.
And was starting to question whether he had been fooled by him again, right?
Yes.
But now here they are, and it's kind of, it says wonder overcame their joy and victory. So they have joy in their victory, and then it kind of leads to this wonder of how did that all happen?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can only imagine after an intense battle where you things start out going so poorly, and you're like, this is probably going to be our last stand, and then all of a sudden you find yourself your enemy scattered, and there's just this joy and relief that you're still alive.
Yep.
That you won.
Yep.
And then just wonder at how it all happened.
Yeah.
As you just kind of think about it, right?
It's like being down 36-0.
Mm-hmm.
In the first half of a playoff game, and coming back.
Did somebody do that?
Huh?
Did somebody do that?
36-0. I don't know. Penn State was down by quite a bit.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I remember that.
And they rallied, but then lost. But anyway, same kind of idea, right?
Right.
It's just that kind of that feeling of hopelessness and despair, and then all of a sudden it's completely turned around, and you're like, whoa, what just happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Suddenly there was a great shout, and down from the dike came those who had been driven back into the deep. There came Gimling the Old, and Eomer, son of Eomund, and beside them walked Gimli the Dwarf. He had no helm, and about his head was a linen band stained with blood, but his voice was loud and strong. 42, Master Legolas, he cried. Alas, my axe is notched. The 42nd had an iron collar on his neck. How is it with you? You have passed my score by 1, answered Legolas, but I do not grudge you the game. So glad am I to see you on your legs. So Gimli wins by
Yep,
one.
by one.
Although it came at the price, the winning blow came at the price of a notched axe for him, because apparently the orc he killed was wearing an iron collar.
Right.
So.
Right. But I don't think that bothers Gimli one bit.
No, you know.
I think it's almost like a source of pride.
Yeah.
For him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He'll get it. He'll get it sharpened up. I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
He'll figure out how to do it.
Oh yeah.
Not the first time his axe has been notched. I'm assuming.
I seriously doubt that. Yeah.
All right. So the big thing that they're wondering about, like one of the big things they're wondering about, is where in the world these trees came from, and meaning all of the people, right? So especially the riders, like they're just like, where in the world did these trees came from that the orcs all fled into and apparently like devoured the orcs?
Oh right.
You know.
Yeah.
And they all assume that it was Gandalf's doing, that he'd had some kind of wizardry that he used.
That he had kind of like bewitched them or
right.
something.
Yeah. But it's interesting. Gandalf laughs at that. He says, it says, Gandalf laughed long and merrily. The trees, he said? Nay, I see the wood as plainly as do you. But that is no deed of mine. It is a thing beyond the counsel of the wise. Better than my design, and better than my hope the event has proved. Then, if not yours, whose is the wizardry? Said Theoden. Not Saruman's, that is plain. Is there some mightier sage of whom we have yet to learn? It is not wizardry, but a power far older, said Gandalf. A power that walked the earth, ere elf sang or hammer rang. You want to read this? Ere iron was found.
Yep. Ere iron was found, or tree was hewn, when young was mountain under moon, ere ring was made, or wrought was woe, it walked the forests long ago.
And what may be the answer to your riddle? Said Theoden. If you would learn that, you should come with me to Isengard, answered Gandalf. So, it's on to, the decision is made there to go on to Isengard, but, we still don't really know at this point what these trees are.
Right.
And, we have some sense that, obviously, from earlier in the Two Towers, that the Ents were going to be doing something, but they seem to be on their way to Isengard.
Yeah.
And furthermore, the Ents aren't actually trees, right? The Ents they're humanoids that happen to have tree characteristics, right?
Yeah, they talk and they walk and they
exactly. But it's pretty clear that they've got legs, they've got arms.
Mm-hmm.
They look a lot like you could mistake them for trees if they were just standing still,
Mm-hmm.
And in the middle of a bunch of other trees. But they are. They move. They have the ability to move around and to speak and all these kinds of things. But these are apparently just trees, right?
Yeah.
It's just like this big forest has moved there.
Yeah.
So, but Gandalf says it has nothing to do with him. Theoden insists, well, there must be some greater wizard than you that's working all of this. Who is it? And Gandalf just says this is a doing beyond the counsels of the wise, right?
Yeah.
I don't. Basically, Gandalf's response is, I have some idea, but I don't fully understand it.
Right.
But we'll learn more if you'll come with me to Isengard.
Yeah.
It's
a little bribe.
Yeah.
The company's not happy. They're not excited about going to Isengard.
No.
I think they're all a little shocked by the idea.
Well, they just finished up this other battle.
Right.
And they're like, we're not capable yet of going in.
We don't have the resources. We don't have the energy.
Right.
So it's kind of funny how Gandalf uses this little curiosity of theirs.
Mm-hmm.
Like how he kind of exploits it a bit. He's like, "Oh, you want to know those trees are? Okay, sure. You got to come with me though.
Well,
make it a long journey."
And at this point, Theoden is unwilling to part with Gandalf anymore. He's like, "Okay, I'm not. You've proved yourself to me so far, so I'm going to continue with you."
Right.
And Gandalf explains to Theoden, "Look, I'm not asking you to bring a whole army.
Right.
I'm just asking you to bring a few men." And because Gandalf says we go to a parley and not to a fight.
Yes.
Right.
Is it not parlay?
Well, let's see.
So I always thought it was parlay. What is it actually? It's more of a meeting, right?
It's like in the last chapter it talked about Aragorn going up on the wall and putting out his hand as if in token of parley.
Oh, right. How do you say it?
How do you say?
Parlay. Maybe it is parley, but I like the way parlay sounds better.
Here we go.
Parsley.
Oh. You-
Oh, that's awesome. I thought it was parsley.
Parsley.
Parlay or parley.
Oh.
There you go.
So we're both right.
And now we know how to say parsley
Now we know how to say
too. So it's like we,
Oh.
you know,
I like saying parsley.
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 That's how you'll say it from now on.
That is just to spite the parsley pronunciator.
Yeah.
So it can be said either way, I guess.
Yeah.
Parlay or parley.
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 So
I like to say parlay.
well, you can say it that
I
way,
can.
and I'll say parley.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
So, but that basically, parley means like to like call a truce and discuss terms, right?
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Discuss terms of one party's surrender,
Okay.
right? You know, or of an end to the conflict, you know, so that we can end this conflict, right?
I see.
Okay.
Okay.
So Gandalf is basically saying like, we're not going to attack Isengard. We're going to discuss terms with Saruman,
Right.
right?
Yep.
To see if he's ready to end this battle, right, end this war. So that's their plan. They're heading out to Isengard. There's going to be a small party that heads over to Isengard, and their plan is to discuss terms with
Right.
Saruman.
Yep.
So, and it's assumed that Saruman still has some kind of great army hanging back at Isengard to protect,
Oh,
you know,
sure.
to
Yeah.
kind of protect
Mhm.
him
That would
himself.
make sense.
So,
Yeah.
you know, in Theoden's mind, they are heading for even more battle with the forces of Saruman.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And yeah, it's surprising to me that Gandalf doesn't want them to bring more men,
mm-hmm.
because I feel like he would know, right? Because he's been to Isengard.
Yeah.
Recently,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it doesn't even say I was there like last night or the
Mhm.
night before last or whatever. So do you think that he either he knows that that they don't have a ton of defenses set up, or is he just like, regardless of what they have there, we're just gonna take a few men?
Well, I think Gandalf just knows more. Like, he knows more about the whole situation, right?
mhm.
He's aware that the Ents were on the move towards Isengard,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And, you know, this is something that Theoden doesn't have any perspective on yet, right?
Okay.
So, you know, I think that's what we're talking about with
Yeah.
Gandalf.
And he's built his trust with Theoden now, so
Yeah.
Theoden's happy to just be like, okay, sure,
Mm-hmm.
whatever you say.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. So there's a little bit of a scene with where we're, you know, they're obviously in battle. There's a lot of fallen, and you know, this is something you don't see discussed in a lot of like in like war movies and that kind of thing. You don't generally see a lot about like the burying the dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you have to think about like some battles must be like the most horrible part of it all for the survivors to have to like bury the
Yeah.
dead, you know,
Yeah.
go through and like, you know, bury those who have fallen in
Yes.
battle.
Yes.
And you know, especially in like a larger battle where lots of people die.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this scene where they're burying the dead, and you know, you've got the men of you got Theoden's men, and then you got the men of the Westmark, right? So you've got kind of the two parties of Rohan, and they're buried in two separate mounds. It actually says, let's see here. In the midst of the field before the Hornburg, two mounds were raised, and beneath them were laid all the riders of the Mark who fell in the defense, those of the Eastdales upon one side, and those of Westfold upon the other. And in a grave alone, under the shadow of the Hornburg, lay Hama, captain of the King's Guard. He fell before the gate. So
That made me sad.
yeah, that is sad.
I like Hama.
Hama was, Hama was of course the figure who, at first, wouldn't let Gandalf and Aragorn and the others into Theoden's hall to meet with him.
Right.
But finally, kind of gave in and, you know, put himself at risk in doing so.
Mm-hmm.
But it ended up turning out well for him.
Right. He's the one that let Gandalf take his staff in, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
so Hama has fallen, and then we've got these two separate mounds, one for those from the West Mark, one from the East. I'm sorry, one from the West Fold, and one from the East Dales. And then we've got this question of the Dunlanders. Now remember, the Dunlanders these are the men who fought on the side of Saruman. These are like
Right.
kind of the wild men who live to
Right.
the north of Isengard. So you can actually see if you look on the map in the back of the book, you can see that Dunland is it's hard it's actually kind of hard to place it. If you look on map 1, you can see at the very down in the bottom right hand corner, you can see Isengard.
Oh, right, yeah.
And then this is Dunland up here. So Dunland is kind of this area that borders Rohan, that's on the west side of the southern Misty Mountains. So it's like north of the west fold.
It's not far from Isengard either.
No. So these are the men that Saruman was convincing that this was their big opportunity to
Right.
take out Rohan, right? To
Right.
get back at Rohan for 500 years of just whatever bad blood was between them, right?
Yep.
We
Exploited a grudge.
There was that talk about the grudge
Yep.
in the last chapter between the men of Dunland and the men of Rohan. But there's this great scene, and is part of this whole burial thing, and I like that it goes with the burial because it's kind of like giving the Dunlanders the opportunity to bury the
Bury
past.
the hatchet.
Bury the hatchet, bury their past misdeeds. And it's great how this all plays out. It says, no orcs remained alive. Their bodies were uncounted, but a great many of the hillsmen had given themselves up, and they were afraid and cried for mercy. And so they're crying for mercy. They're afraid. They're thinking the men of Rohan are going to cut them down.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
The men of the Mark took their weapons from them and set them to work. Help now to repair the evil in which you have joined, said Erkenbrand. And afterwards you shall take an oath never to pass the fords of Isen in arms, nor to march with the enemies of men. And then you shall go free back to your land, for you have been deluded by Saruman. Many of you have got death as the reward of your trust in him. But had you conquered, little better would your wages have been. The men of Dunland were amazed, for Saruman had told them that the men of Rohan were cruel and burned their captives alive. So these guys are thinking that they're going to get burned alive. And it's kind of cool to see Erkenbrand, who being the Lord of the Westfold, he borders most closely with the men of Dunland. He basically just says, not only I'm going to give you, I'm going to set you free, but not only am I going to set you free, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to right some of the wrong you've done by helping to bury the dead here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're going to take an oath never to do this against men again. Right. Never to go to war like this against nor to march with the enemies of men. And they're just amazed at this because Saruman had told them the men of Rohan want to burn you alive.
Saruman lied? What?
Yeah, I know.
Who would have thought?
But it's just kind of a beautiful scene of burying the past. It shows the goodness of the men of Rohan.
Yeah, totally.
And it's the sense of true good. What is the true good triumphing?
Yes. Yes.
So.
Yeah. That's good stuff.
Yeah, I liked this scene. I thought it was a fitting little close to the Battle of Helm's Deep.
I would agree.
All right, so things are reconciled, or in the process of reconciling between the men of Dunland and the men of Rohan. We've lost Hama. The men who have died in battle have been buried, and now we're going back to considering what in the world is going on with these trees. So it says, the riders came to the wood, and they halted. Horse and man, they were unwilling to pass in. The trees were gray and menacing, and a shadow or a mist was about them. The ends of their long sweeping boughs hung down like searching fingers. Their roots stood up from the ground like the limbs of strange monsters, and dark caverns opened beneath them. But Gandalf went forward, leading the company, and where the road from the Hornburg met the trees, they saw now an opening like an arched gate under mighty boughs. And through it Gandalf passed, and they followed him. Then, to their amazement, they found that the road ran on, and the deeping stream beside it, and the sky was open above and full of golden light. But on either side, the great aisles of the wood were already wrapped in dusk, stretching away into impenetrable shadows. And there they heard the creaking and groaning of boughs, and far cries, and a rumor of wordless voices, murmuring angrily. No orc or other living creature could be seen. So the woods seem to be alive, but they can't see anything that's alive.
Right.
That's kind of the big takeaway here. I mean, not only do they seem to be alive not only because of the sounds, but just kind of the way Tolkien describes them. There's almost this personified quality to all the different trees, right?
Yeah.
But it's not the same as the Ents.
No, not the same as the Ents, but similar.
Yeah.
Still. Creepy, I would have to say.
Yeah. But apparently the orcs were destroyed when they ran into the woods, but now the riders of Rohan are not. They're able to pass safely through these woods.
Right, that's right, yeah. And they don't see any remains of the orcs or anything, right? I mean, they don't, there's no real, evidence that the orcs were even there, but they know that they were. Right. Because they saw them run there.
Yeah, it's kind of a mystery. Gandalf says, Legolas asks, what has become of the miserable orcs? And Gandalf says, that I think no one will ever know. So, yeah, it's kind of
it's bizarre.
Yeah, it really is bizarre. Like, did the trees eat them, or like what?
Or do they just shove them under the ground, buried them?
I mean, you think back to Old Man Willow, right, in the Old Forest, and he tried to eat one of the hobbits, right?
He did. Oh, Man Willow. Yeah.
You remember that scene?
Yeah.
Where, one of the hobbits is trapped inside a tree.
So are these trees related to Old Man Willow?
Well, I think it was back in the Treebeard chapter. There's a discussion about the relation between the Old Forest and Fangorn, and how they're they're kind of related. They're these. Right. At one point, this whole region was covered with just kind of a vast forest, and it's been the forest has been lost over time. This vast forest, but so you've got these little pockets of wild woods now.
Yes.
The Old Forest being one, Fangorn being one.
Right.
And so maybe there's a relation between Old Man Willow and these trees. It's an interesting question.
Very interesting.
Okay, so we get more of a discussion next from Gimli and Legolas. This is Gimli getting all poetic. I don't think anything will ever top for him the experience of meeting Galadriel. But this is I think going into the caves behind Helm's Deep was a second for him, a close second.
There's almost spiritual experience.
Yeah, with the way he talks about it. So, and this is just a beautiful passage. Great prose written by Tolkien. So I just wanted to read. It's a little bit of a section, but I just wanted to read this. Maybe we can go back and forth reading, starting. Let's say "Strange are the ways of men," Legolas. You see where that is?
Yeah.
Okay.
But before, I just want to say how it was interesting to me how just this friendship between Legolas and Gimli it makes me smile.
Yeah.
Because they're they couldn't be more different, right? Yeah. I mean, just their histories, right? I mean, their outlook on life. Legolas is this tall, skinny, beautiful elf, and here's, this short, stubby, hairy, mustached dwarf, who's rough and tumble, not especially good with the ladies. But yet they've become friends, good friends. Yeah. And, they've just really latched onto each other. And so what I love about this is I love that. What are you doing? Oh.
Hold on, I was trying to find the.
But.
Where is it?
Anyway, as I was saying.
I'm listening.
Are you?
Yes.
I'm not so sure.
I'm listening.
Okay. But I just think it's, they're so good. They're such good friends. And, but they're so different. And I think this passage is a beautiful job of juxtaposing their differences.
It's okay, Greta. Just let the song speak for you.
Okay, fine. Is this the White Stripes?
Yeah.
Do any of them have mustaches? Like Gimli?
Well, no, because one of them is a woman,
Oh.
and the other one doesn't have a mustache.
Oh, is it just two of them?
Yeah.
It's Jack White, right?
Mm.
Jack White doesn't have a mustache?
Not normally.
You know, he lives in Nashville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I hear.
Alright, so that's gonna be Legolas and
Yeah.
Gimli's theme song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like listening to
Just
the
like
theme song for now.
them riding along on the horse through the
right.
forest, and they're just singing the song together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great because whenever I hear that song, I think of I think of the imagery in the song, like kids, like little kids going back to school, and I remember when being a little kid and you meet somebody on the first day of school and and they end up becoming a buddy for the rest of that school year or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this kind of innocent little friendship, and it's just funny to think of Legolas and Gimli in those terms, looks like we're gonna be friends,
yeah.
Legolas.
Whether you like it or not.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, I mean that's the whole vibe you get. You just see their friendship growing, over the course of the whole story.
Right. Despite all their differences.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of made me chuckle when, Gimli is talking about how creeped out he is by this forest.
Yeah.
And Legolas is like, oh man, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And then, Gimli's like, oh man, just take me back to the caves. Those caves are amazing. And Legolas is like, ugh, keep me away. So anyway, I just thought it was, it's one of the things I really like about this passage.
Yeah.
Is that it, it shows their deep friendship, but also, they're kind of their deep friendship despite all their differences.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway.
Awesome.
I'll stop now.
Nice job, Greta.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Nice musical accompaniment, John.
Right on.
And Jack.
I wish we could just get it, have that queued up to play whenever we start talking about Legolas and Gimli.
Hey, you're a tech guy. You can figure that out, I'm sure.
Legolas and Gimli time.
Yeah.
It's a little, segment within every episode or something like that.
Hey, I love that idea. I say do it.
Oh, okay. We'll see.
We'll see.
We will just have to see how it all plays out. All right. So strange are the ways of men. So let's read this passage because it's just a beautifully written passage.
All right. Strange are the ways of men, Legolas. Here they have one of the marvels of the northern world, and what do they say of it? Caves, they say. Caves! Holes to fly to in time of war, to store fodder in. My good Legolas, do you know that the caverns of Helm's Deep are vast and beautiful? There would be an endless pilgrimage of dwarves merely to gaze at them, if such things were known to be. Aye, indeed, they would pay pure gold for a brief glance.
And I would give gold to be excused, said Legolas, and double to be let out if I strayed in.
You have not seen, so I forgive your jest, said Gimli, but you speak like a fool. Do you think those halls are fair, where your king dwells under the hill in Mirkwood, and dwarves helped in their making long ago? They are but hovels compared with the caverns I have seen here, immeasurable halls filled with an everlasting music of water that tinkles into pools, as fair as you'll have to say that.
Khalidzarum.
In the starlight. And Legolas, when the torches are kindled and men walk on the sandy floors under the echoing domes, then, Legolas, gems and crystals and veins of precious ore glint in the polished walls, and the light glows through folded marbles, shell-like, translucent as the living hands of Queen Galadriel. There are columns of white and saffron and dawn rose, Legolas, fluted and twisted into dreamlike forms. They spring up from many colored floors to meet the glistening pendants of the roof. Wings, ropes, curtains, fine as frozen clouds. Spears, banners, pinnacles of suspended palaces. Still lakes mirror them. A glimmering world looks up from dark pools covered with clear glass. Cities such as the mind of Durin could scarce have imagined in his sleep. Stretch on through avenues and pillared courts, on into the dark recesses where no light can come. And plink! A silver drop falls, and the round wrinkles in the glass make all the towers bend and waver like weeds and corals in a grotto of the sea. Then evening comes, they fade and twinkle out. The torches pass on into another chamber and another dream. There is chamber after chamber, Legolas, hall opening out of hall, dome after dome, stair beyond stair. And still the winding paths lead on into the mountain's heart. Caves! The caverns of Helm's Deep. Happy was the chance that drove me there. It makes me weep to leave them.
Then I will wish you this fortune for your comfort, Gimli, said the elf, that you may come safe from war and return to see them again. But do not tell all your kindred. There seems little left for them to do from your account. Maybe the men of this land are wise to say little. One family of busy dwarves with hammer and chisel might mar more than they made.
No, you do not understand, said Gimli. No dwarf could be unmoved by such loveliness. None of Doran's race would mine those caves for stones or ore, not if diamonds and gold could be got there. Do you cut down groves of blossoming trees in the springtime for firewood? We would tend these glades of flowering stone, not quarry them. With cautious skill, tap by tap, a small chip of rock, and no more, perhaps, in a whole anxious day. So we could work, and as the years went by, we should open up new ways and display far chambers that are still dark, glimpsed only as a void beyond fissures in the rock. And lights, Legolas. We should make lights, such lamps as once shone in Khazad-dûm. And when we wished, we would drive away the night that has lain there since the hills were made. And when we desired rest, we would let the night return.
You've moved me, Gimli, said Legolas. I have never heard you speak like this before. Almost you make me regret that I have not seen these caves. Come, let us make this bargain. If we both return safe out of the perils that await us, we will journey for a while together. You shall visit Fangorn with me, and then I will come with you to see Helm's Deep.
That would not be the way of return that I should choose, said Gimli, but I will endure Fangorn if I have your promise to come back to the caves and share their wonder with me.
You have my promise, said Legolas, but alas, now we must leave behind both cave and wood for a while. See, we are coming to the end of the trees. How far is it to Isengard, Gandalf? All right, so, yeah, like, good job reading, by the way, for Gimli's, little kind of passionate speech about these caves. But,
thanks.
you can, Gimli, just becomes a poet here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty impressive. You think of Gimli as this kind of gruff, tough figure, but
With a mustache.
with a mustache and a beard,
Mm-hmm.
and but I mean, just the things he says about these caves, it's like he sees things in these caves that Legolas isn't capable of seeing.
Totally lost on Legolas.
Yeah.
I think probably lost on most people.
Yeah. Well, and I was thinking about, but Gimli also has this respect for these caves. He Legolas is like, yeah, you bring a bunch of dwarves here, and then you all would mine the heck out of it, and it would be ugly. And Gimli's like, no, you don't understand. We would have deep reverence for these places. They're too beautiful for us to want to mar. We might chip away a little bit here and there just to bring out the further beauty of it, but we wouldn't want to just completely change the nature of it.
Right.
And I was thinking as I read that, how in tune that is with Tolkien's whole idea of good art, right? Of good subcreation, right? It's the whole idea of bringing out what truly is hidden in something, right? Not in the sense of changing the nature of something, but developing kind of the raw material of something into kind of its fullness of potential, its full beautiful potential.
Yes.
I just love some of the things Gimli says. Whereas my favorite thing was, we would tend these glades of flowering stone, not quarry them. Only only Gimli could see glades of flowering stone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he looks at these like a gardener would look at a flower bed.
He totally does. Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. And it's funny, as I was reading this, I was thinking, we've visited different caves, in different places. And actually one of the coolest places that, I don't know if it's technically a cave, but when we lived in Germany, we went to Salzburg, and I remember we went to the salt mines in Salzburg. And they're, they're underground and they're caves and stuff. But even the caves that we've visited here, I mean, yeah, they're cool, and it's kind of nifty. It's just so different than, it's something that you just don't experience all the time. So there's kind of a novelty about it. But to be honest, I always just am ready to get out. 15 minutes in, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is cool. And, I think that stalactite is pretty nifty looking, but, can we go now?
Yeah.
There's just something about being underground and being in the dark that I think is just uncomfortable for most people. So it's interesting to see Gimli, and obviously Gimli is just, he's a dwarf, and so that's where he's at home. But it's beautiful. I love that Tolkien spent the time to write this part of the chapter because I think it serves to help me and maybe others who feel the same way about caves as like Legolas and I do to appreciate them more, you know, and to see beauty in something that you wouldn't necessarily see beauty in.
Right.
You know.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it sometimes seems like Lord of the Rings is like it almost seems sometimes like Tolkien wrote Lord of the Rings just to like have these opportunities to fit in these extended like passages on like beautiful things or like, you know, kind of philosophies about different aspects of the world that you wouldn't normally think of.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And you know, it's interesting that he juxtaposes this with Legolas, who's all about woods, and you kind of get the different mindset that Legolas has towards beautiful forests, and but it's all, you know, but at the same time, this all feeds into the whole thing of Legolas and Gimli becoming closer friends, and you know, when they start out the story as being just completely at odds.
Yes.
So anyway.
Yeah.
I just wanted to spend a little time talking about that section. I felt like it would have been easy to gloss over because it's just like Gimli waxing poetic about caves. But I think it's one of those passages that Tolkien probably would have admitted, like Tom Bombadil, he would have admitted, like, does this really play a huge part in the story? No. But it still needed to be there.
Yeah.
And so like people don't make stories like that anymore. Like the big stories that come out in movies and that kind of thing, they all just like cut to the chase, get to the action. You know, there's no quiet, like the quiet moments in the big stories that we have these days are just increasingly not there anymore.
Yeah, being cut out.
And I think it's I think it's tragic.
Yeah. I
really do. Just the quiet, more contemplative moment, like even in the like the original Star Wars. You know, I went to see Rogue One recently, and which is the newest Star Wars movie that came out, and I liked it, but it was action. There were no quiet moments in it. No moments of just like you had in the first one where Luke, like, you know, there's this beautiful scene where he just kind of walks out on above ground at his aunt and uncle's home on Tatooine. It's near the beginning of the movie. He just walks out like at dusk, and he looks at the sunset, you know, and there's like this kind of just theme playing in the background. There's just this quiet moment, like quiet, beautiful moment, and you get the sense that it's a more contemplative moment. Like what's he thinking about? What's he wrestling with? And I don't know. It's just a general like thought that I had coming from this, like. You just don't see these kinds of moments. We're in such a hurry to get to the action nowadays.
Yeah, that's true.
And there's no time to slow down and think and consider the beauty.
Stop and smell the roses.
Or not even just stop and smell the roses, but just to kind of wrestle within oneself too. You know.
Well, I think a lot of people just aren't comfortable doing that.
Maybe.
Because I think they're afraid of what they'll find. I think but yeah, you're right. I mean, I think it's a sad commentary on our society, because, you know, it seems like this is kind of goofy, but there's I think it's Kenny Chesney has put out a song not too long ago, and I think I don't know if it's called Noise or what, but that's basically the theme of the song is like they just make more noise, and you know, and it's kind of like. You know, you can't hear yourself think, so what do? You just make more noise, all right? Drown yourself out more. And I think that's basically what you're saying, is that's kind of where we're at, you know? And that could also be, like, I know Tolkien was not a big fan of the whole industrial movement and, you know, factories and all that stuff. And this, you know, this may be just a little way that he is just kind of, you know, speaking out against all that stuff that's above the ground and all that noise and all that, all the hurry and hustle and bustle.
Right.
But no, I'm glad that we took the time to read that, because honestly, when I was reading through it the first time, I was like, "Well, this is so boring." Bleh. You know, like, come on, Gimli, like, get over it. It's a hole in the ground, you know. But now, you know, I'm glad we took the time to read through it, because I definitely appreciate it more.
Yeah,
It gives great insight into Gimli and his character.
Well, that's the thing about these quiet moments, is there are a lot of times the ones that give you insight, and it's also interesting that Tolkien put this just on the heels of the first great battle of the War of the Rings, right? Like, I mean, you know, I'm sure that, I mean, Peter Jackson basically built the movie The Two Towers around the Battle of Helm's Deep, right? Like, that was the centerpiece of that movie, and because of all the action, right?
Sure.
But here you have, like, just this extended kind of quiet moment, and it's not quiet in the sense of nothing happens. It's just quiet in the sense of, like, people are taking the time to think and to have a conversation.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And I know we've talked about that as one of the things that in some chapters where there's lots of conversation, it frustrates you. But I've told you that's one of the things I love about the Lord of the Rings, is you get those long conversations. Yeah. And if this was just a book about conversations, I don't think I would love it as much. I do love you know, how it balances between so many different types of writing, but I definitely wouldn't. To me, Lord of the Rings wouldn't be the same if it weren't for this. If it weren't for the whole thing with Tom Bombadil.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And just those oddities, you know,
a
dwarf waxing poetic about the beauty of caves.
That's what makes Tolkien. That's why you're doing this.
That's what sets him apart.
Right.
Yeah.
This is what makes him special, and what makes these books special.
I was grading a paper for a class that I teach, and it's an 8th grade kid. And he's a nice kid, and I think he knows how much I love Tolkien, and I think he was kind of giving me a hard time in this paper, which I totally encourage. And but he wrote about some other story, like fantasy story that he likes reading, and I think it was like Aragon or something like that, which I have not read, but I've heard of. And he was talking about how it's better than Lord of the Rings, and you know, he was listing off all these things, like it's got more action and all this kind of stuff, and it doesn't waste time and all these long conversations. And I'm just
funny.
I'm just like, you know, you argue your paper pretty well. And I told him, but the thing is, you're wrong. And I bet the guy, and it's just kind of that simple. And I bet the guy that wrote Aragon
was inspired very much
exactly.
by Tolkien.
And I bet he would say I bet he would actually say to you, like, no, Tolkien is a far better writer than I am. You know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's funny.
Just a thought.
Yeah.
Kids these days. Arr! All right. Okay. Moving on from waxing poetic about caves.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Speaking of kids these days, I wonder.
I gotta turn this off. It's just like burning me up.
Oh.
If we start, you know what it is? It's because the fan's not on.
Oh.
But you'll get cold if we turn
I will
the fan
get cold. So let's just turn that off and see how we do. What I was going to say about kids these days, I was kind of wondering as we were talking about this, because, you know, Mary Grace had shared in her email that she wishes that Peter Jackson had put more of this chapter in the movie. So I kind of wonder if this maybe was one of those things that she really liked about this chapter, and you know, had hoped that would make it into the movie. But
yeah, I mean, I'm. You know, I can sympathize.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Most certainly. All right.
So, are you done?
Oh, about caves?
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a little more in the chapter, before we're done with this part of the chapter.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
No, I'm good.
All right. So moving on.
We just talked about that way longer than I expected us to.
No, sorry.
No, I'm not complaining. I contributed.
Don't be hasty.
Don't be hasty. That's exactly right.
And speaking of don't be hasty.
It's about the journey, not the destination.
So we move on, and and as they have this conversation, Legolas and Gimli are journeying through the forest, and Legolas all of a sudden says, "There are eyes looking out from the shadows of the boughs. I never saw such eyes before." The others, surprised by his cry, halted and turned, but Legolas started to ride back. "No, no!" cried Gimli. What?
I love this. I laughed out loud.
"Do as you please in your madness, but let me first get down from this horse. I wish to see no eyes."
I loved that. Oh my god, it just made me laugh.
Why?
I don't know, I could just see Gimli, you know, it's just funny because he's such a tough, you know, like, crazy little dwarf. And then you just see him, like, completely freak out over the idea of having to go back into the forest. It's just, this guy can, like, hew down 42 orcs without even thinking about it, but the thought of going back into the forest, he's just like, no, let me down. It's like a kid that got on a carnival ride that's like, what have I done? I want to get off. It just made me laugh.
Yeah, it is pretty funny now that I think about it. Gandalf says, "Stay, Legolas Greenleaf. Do not go back into the wood. Not yet. Now is not your time." Even as he spoke, there came forward out of the trees 3 strange shapes. As tall as trolls they were, 12 feet or more in height. Their strong bodies, stout as young trees, seemed to be clad with raiment or with hide of close-fitting gray and brown. Their limbs were long, and their hands had many fingers. Their hair was stiff, and their beards gray-green as moss. They gazed out with solemn eyes, but they were not looking at the riders. Their eyes were bent northwards. Suddenly they lifted their long hands to their mouths and sent forth ringing calls, clear as notes of a horn, but more musical and various. The calls were answered, and turning again, the riders saw other creatures of the same kind approaching, striding through the grass. They came swiftly from the north, walking like waiting herons in their gait, but not in their speed, for their legs and their long paces beat quicker than the heron's wings. The riders cried aloud in wonder, and some set their hands upon their sword hilts. So I was thinking about this in the description, and it says, walking like waiting herons in their gait. And so I think herons have like long, kind of skinny legs.
Yes, they do.
But not in their speed, for their legs and their long paces beat quicker than the heron's wings. And I'm like, man, their legs must have been moving really fast.
Yeah.
That's just like a weird... I'm trying to picture this in my head.
Yeah, I was trying... I read that a couple times, too, trying to figure it out. But it says, walking like herons in their gait, but not in their speed.
Yeah.
Oh, so herons must... They must be slow.
Yeah, well, I think a heron wading through water would be slow.
Yeah, because you have
I guess I think a heron has
resistance.
big wings, so they probably don't flap their wings super fast. But so maybe it's not that fast that they're walking, but it's still apparently the Ents are walking fast.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah,
so
they're
you just
taking
called
big
them
strides.
Ents. Yep, they're
Well, these are Ents. We established that these are Ents. You and I were having a separate conversation before the episode started about with the trees and what they were.
So these are different
Yeah.
than the forest that was moving.
Right.
I see.
Yeah.
So, well, that's confusing. The moving forest was not made up of Ents?
No, that's what I was trying to say earlier about the Ents, right? The Ents are not trees. They have a lot of the appearances of trees.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
and some of the Ents, they say even like kind of fall asleep and get so lazy that they become pretty much trees. But that's not what they are.
Right,
You know
that's
what I'm
not what
saying?
they were created to be.
Right.
Gotcha.
They're tree shepherds, right? And that's what we find
Oh,
here, right?
herdsmen, yeah. But before we move on, I have a question.
Yeah.
And this has been bugging me. So it says that their limbs were long and their hands had many fingers, their hair was stiff, and their beards gray-green as moss. So if they have beards, does that mean they also have mustaches?
One would assume.
You would
Now
think
it's possible
so.
that they could, do the whole thing where they shave their mustache, but I don't get
Like
the
have
impression.
a goatee, maybe?
No, like have the mustacheless beard.
Oh, is that the name? Is there a name for a mustacheless beard?
I
It's
don't
not
know.
a goatee, is it? Because a goatee is just
I've always
a
thought it looked
short
really weird
beard.
when guys don't have a mustache but they have a beard. But
I
I've
think
seen
there's
it
a guy
before.
on Guess Who. You know that game? Guess Who?
Oh, okay.
There's a guy, one of the characters on Guess Who. I think he has a beard without a
Mm-hmm.
mustache. So anyway, I was just trying to picture these Ents. And I was trying to figure out if they had mustaches or not.
Mm-hmm. I'm surprised you didn't start out by saying I must ask you a question.
Well, I thought about doing that, but I feel like it's been done so often. I don't want to sound cheesy.
Oh, well,
So
I
now
was
you're
cheesy
the
for
cheesy
you.
one. Yep.
I was cheesy for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I don't know. That's a good question, Greta.
Mm-hmm.
But it shall remain a mystery.
I wonder if there's anything in the appendix about it. Maybe we can Google.
Probably.
Do Ents have mustaches?
Well, it's probably Appendix M on mustaches.
And the different qualities of them.
That's right.
Like Gimli's is all bushy, whereas Gandalf's is more tailored
That's right.
and well groomed.
Yes.
I wonder who else has a mustache besides Gimli and Gandalf.
Legolas
Theoden?
probably doesn't have a mustache.
No, Legolas is he doesn't have a mustache.
He's too pretty to have a mustache.
I was just gonna say that, but I thought I might come across as trying to call Legolas a pretty boy, which even though he is, he's still a tough dude.
But he's an elf, so the elves are just beautiful.
They
you
are
know?
beautiful. Yeah. What about Theoden? He probably has a mustache.
Yeah, he probably does. Well, we can look it up and we'll do a special episode on Appendix M
Okay.
on mustaches.
All about mustaches.
Yeah, concerning mustaches.
Man, I can't wait.
Yeah.
I love mustaches.
All right. Okay, so what were we talking about? Oh yeah, Ents.
Oh, the trees, yeah.
Yeah. So I love Theoden's response to seeing the Ents. Gandalf calls him the shepherd of the trees, the shepherds of the trees.
Mm-hmm.
He says, let's see. He says, Theoden, it is otherwise. To them you are but the passing tale. All the years from Eorl the young to Theoden the old are of little count to them, and all the deeds of your house but a small matter.
Mm-hmm.
The king was silent. Ents, he said at length. Out of the shadows of legend I began a little to understand the marvel of the trees, I think. I have lived to see strange days. Long we have tended our beasts in our fields, built our houses, wrought our tools, or ridden away to help in the wars of Minas Tirith. And that we called the life of men, the way of the world. We cared little for what lay beyond the borders of our land. Songs we have that tell of these things, but we are forgetting them, teaching them only to children as a careless custom. And now the songs have come down among us out of strange places, and walk visible under the sun.
I loved that passage.
Yeah.
I loved it.
What did you like about it?
Well, I just think it's clearly it's like a reality check for Theoden. And it just really it speaks so much about it's all about perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I think it's something that that I think we could all use a little more perspective.
Yeah.
Because even we each have our own day-to-day lives and we have our routines and we can get so focused in what we're doing and our own problems and our own issues that we kind of lose sight of the bigger picture about everything else that's going around. And it's it also ties in I think with what we were talking about just quiet and taking the time to meditate. Taking the time to just kind of pull yourself out of your own reality for a minute and just think about what's been in the past, what's going on right now, but not in your own little world. Just kind of taking some time to step outside yourself.
Yeah.
And think about the wonders of creation that are all around you and that have been there.
Well, but even for Theoden here, it goes beyond even just the wonders of creation, right? Because being horsemen and everything, they were somewhat in touch with probably more than we are in general than with like the created world around them, right?
Yeah.
Or just like the natural world around them, but this is literally about legends becoming real for Theoden and the writers, right? Things that they knew legends of and maybe thought maybe they're real, maybe they're not, but I'll never experience. It's of no really concern to me. And all of a sudden it is of concern.
Yeah.
All of a sudden these things have become real to them. And if you remember back to the first chapter of Fellowship, there's that conversation that Sam has with like somebody else in the Green Dragon. I think they actually talk about the Ents.
Yeah, I was gonna say this whole conversation feels very familiar to me. I feel like we've had it, or something very similar has happened before. Do
me a favor, can you grab Fellowship from up there? My copy of Fellowship. I want to pull that up because I didn't think to mark that, but yeah. What is it? He says. Where is it?
I'm trying to think of a song that I could play to fill the silence about trees or about living legends or about fairy tales becoming real.
Well,
was it really all the way back at the beginning of Fellowship? I feel like it was more recent than that.
Yeah, it was.
Oh. Okay.
Let's see. 12 years past. Sandy Man. There's a call to go pushing boats. Boats are quicker.
Blah, 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 blah.
I don't know if I'm able to find it this quickly because it's kind of.
But I feel like there was something else, though, even more recently than that. About. Maybe it wasn't even about Ents, but it was just the idea of, kind of songs, things that you kind of grew up singing songs about all of a sudden appearing before your face. And you're like, whoa. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just that idea of, I don't know, I guess I'm trying to think of, like, yeah, I don't know. Like, just, it would be like Paul Bunyan, right? Or, Paul Bunyan and his blue ox. Like, just all of a sudden, like, knocking on your door.
Yeah, well,
And you're like, whoa, you're real?
I'm not gonna be able to find. If anybody wants to look up that reference, I know it exists. But anyway, this is a it's a motif in Lord of the Rings of legends of having characters who kind of live mundane lives, all of a sudden becoming aware of things that they only thought were legends being real.
Right. Yeah.
It occurs several times.
Yes,
and
it
this
does
is
occur
only
several
latest
times.
instance.
Yes.
And it's interesting to think that way back in the beginning, the hobbits were talking about Ents in that way too, right? That they had heard of these like trees that walk around, but they were just legends to them. And some of legends in the sense that some of them were just like, oh, whatever, that's a fairy.
Like, that could even happen in real life,
Yeah.
please. Yeah.
Exactly. But here they are, and this is real life, and these things
It's like
are real.
Theoden's probably pinching himself right now.
Yeah.
It's like, is this a dream or is it really happening?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like Gandalf's line here. I think this is a really great line. He says to Theoden, he says, "You are not without allies, even if you know them not."
Yeah.
That's like one to just remember to like put away and remember at all times. Like you are not without allies, even if you know them not. In your struggles in life, whatever, you are not without allies, even if you know them not.
Yep.
Theoden says here, "For however the fortune of war shall go, may it not so end that much that was fair and wonderful shall pass forever out of Middle Earth." So Theoden is, even though he's just had this victory at Helm's Deep, there's still that he's getting this sense that an even greater war is this is just the start of an even greater war, and much might perish, much that is good and wonderful and wondrous might perish.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it ends on a what is it? A melancholy note there. But Gandalf says, "All right, that may be so, but to such days we are doomed. Let us now go on with the journey we have begun." All right.
That's right.
Right back
Always
to
count
it.
on Gandalf, just, keeping it real, keeping everybody focused, on track.
That's right. That's right. Can't worry too much about what might or might not happen.
Exactly.
Just gotta keep pushing forward with what you know is right.
Shoot at you.
All right.
Alrighty. Good stuff.
Yeah. So now I gotta get my haiku theme pulled back up because
Because you pulled up the white stripes for all of our listening pleasure.
all right. Haiku. There we go.
There it is.
Me first or you first?
You first.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 syllables in haiku.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 syllables in haiku. It was kind of...
You said me first and then...
I know. I thought we were talking about who was going to read their haiku first. I was totally, not even focused. Because you know what distracted me? Is I was looking out the window and, everything's kind of bare, right? Because it's winter. And there was, this bright red thing sitting in this bare bush. And I was like, what is that? Did the kids have a red ball that they got stuck in the bush? But then, as I was watching, this beautiful cardinal just took off and flew away. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was the reddest cardinal I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And against the snow. Oh, it was beautiful.
Awesome.
So, sorry. I'm glad that you were focused.
I think I see him right there. He's on the ground now.
Oh, yeah, there he is.
Yeah.
He's super red, right?
Mm-hmm. Go Cards.
Yeah, go Cards.
Yeah.
They're probably playing today, huh?
Are they?
Well, it's Saturday in basketball season, so I just
I
assume
guess it's basketball. It is basketball season. That's right. I just don't start paying attention to college basketball until
March Madness.
March Madness, really.
I know. I don't either, really, unless Villanova's playing and I happen to turn it on.
Yeah, they lost their first game this week, by the way.
That stinks. To who?
Who was it? Oh, it was Butler.
Dang it, Butler.
Butler.
So what? So that was the first game they lost.
It's all our Aussie mate Corey Butler's fault. His school beat your school.
Score. Wait, who's Corey Butler?
He's our Aussie mate.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Dang it. Oh, well. Well, you know what? The fact that they got to January without losing a game,
Yeah, that's pretty
I'll
good.
take it. I'll take it.
As long as they don't go on a colossal losing streak, just collapse, they, should be a good
They'll be
postseason for
fine.
them.
They'll be fine. I believe.
All right, haiku. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, I want you to go first.
Okay. Well, I forgot my haiku until like right as we were about to start recording, so I had to write a haiku at the last minute. So be kind.
Never.
Forgot my haiku. What be those trees? Gandalf? What's the meaning of this?
Well played. Well played.
Yeah. Dash that off in about a minute. So
Hey, mine didn't take me that much longer.
good.
I just got mine done, 12 hours earlier than you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, here's mine. Strong, stout, tall as trolls, the stuff of fireside tales, herding, walking songs.
Booyah.
Mm-hmm.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
Thanks. I was kind of proud of that one. But you know what? As usual, I think our listeners may have outdone us again.
Well, let's hear them.
Well, so we have one from Rob, but you know what? I'm gonna send. I'm not gonna send. I'm gonna save his for last
Okay.
because he cheated, and he did a poem. Because he said he couldn't fit it in those 17 syllables, and he hopes that he'll forgive us. So I'm still
He
thinking.
hopes that he'll forgive us?
No, yes, that's right. He hopes that we'll forgive him.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take a little time, think about whether or not
Yeah.
I have forgiven him, and whether or not I'm going to read the poem.
Okay.
Which actually, spoiler alert, I am going to read the poem.
Okay.
Because it's really good.
I was worried there.
But I'm going to stick with the haiku. We'll get the haiku down, and then we'll do the poem.
Right on.
All right, and then we have one from Aaron Thiessen, and he actually came up with a new title for me, which I think is in the front running at this point. He says, "Greetings, lady of the haikudrium." Haikudrium. And what's funny is that he also included footnotes with his correspondence.
Man.
And so haikudrium is footnoted twice. So the first footnote that goes with that says, haikudrium derived from the term Galadrium, which are the people of Lothlorien.
Oh, haikudrum.
No, I want to say it haikudrium,
But there's no U in there.
but I liked putting you in there. Sorry, did I ruin it?
No.
How do you say it? Haikudrum?
Haikudrum. Yeah. Or it's actually haikuthrum.
Oh, haiku.
Thrum.
What?
Thrum.
What?
Because the DH is pronounced as you would say then, right?
Oh. So how did I say it?
Haikuthrum.
Haikuthrum.
Let's see.
So I need to learn how to say it. It's going to be
Haikuthrum.
my favorite title.
Haikuthrum.
Haikuthrum,
Yeah.
which is derived from what?
Galadhrim.
Galadhrim,
Yeah.
who are the people of Lothlorien.
Right.
Okay. Sorry, Aaron, that I mispronounced it. But I still love it.
Awesome.
And I'm going to learn to say it.
You can have multiple titles.
I'm going to learn to say it the right way.
The High Queen of Haiku.
Yeah. High Queen of Haiku, Captain of Correspondence, and now...
The Lady of the Haiku.
Yes, Lady of the Haikudrum. Haikudrum.
Thrum. Thrum.
I'll have to practice this week. Okay. And then his second footnote for my new title is, he says, I thought it would be fun to include footnotes in my correspondence. On one of your episodes about Tolkien's letters, you brought attention to his footnotes. So now Aaron is going to include footnotes in his thing. So, here is his, without further ado. He says, thank you very much for allowing me to continue my haiku writing career. I will check all my facts 3 times now. And then here's the haiku. Tales told to children of things remote and buried, and here and walking.
Nice.
Really good.
Yes.
There's a theme with all of our haikus so far.
Mm-hmm.
Focused on the trees.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says, until next time, Aaron the Reason Thiessen.
Nice.
And then he footnoted that and says, I don't know why you decided to call me this, but I will take it.
Yeah.
So thank you, Aaron.
Because as one of our regular correspondents, you earned a nickname.
Right.
And, we try not to think too hard about them.
Right.
Kind of like...
And because reason and Thiessen kind of rhyme.
Yeah.
So it works. All right, and then we have one from Mary Grace.
Mary Grace.
Mary Grace.
What is it?
Mary Grace. Why don't you read Mary Grace's?
Okay, with pleasure. Forth to Isengard, an answer to riddles sought, and doom of colors.
She
And
spelled
doom of
colors with a U.
Yeah, she did.
Why?
Because she's cool like that.
Yeah. But is there more of a reason?
I don't know, and she capitalized it as well.
Yes.
It may be a reference to Saruman of Many Colors, right? Remember how he Gandalf talked about how he went from being Gandalf or Saruman the White to Saruman of Many Colors.
Oh, that's right.
So maybe that's
maybe
what the reference is to. Very clever. Very clever.
clever. Enlighten us, Mary Grace, will you? But that was awesome. I love it.
I must
All right.
ask you.
Yes,
enlighten us.
we must ask you to enlighten us.
That's right.
Pretty please. And then Rob.
Rob, the man, the myth, the legend, Fangman.
Yes. Here is his poem. It's funny to me that okay. It's just funny to me that he wrote a poem because he said he couldn't fit it into 17 syllables. And honestly, I had a really hard time with the haiku for this one because I didn't think I could come up with 17 syllables from the chapter. So it's like opposite issues. Anyway, so here we go. Rob's poem. A hidden world, the glittering caves, shining towers of silver blaze, pillars rise of translucent stone, light from living crystal shone, gems like stars of silver light, mirrored in deep lake's twilight. A dreamlike world of lands beyond, the glittering caves of Aglarond.
Right on. Great
Beautiful.
stuff.
He channeled his inner mustached Gimli there.
That's right.
That was beautiful.
Awesome. Great job, Rob.
Yeah,
That's
totally
great. Really good.
great. And then he did add a PS. He says, if you guys go into the appendix after the book, I would recommend the section on the dwarves. There is some really great stuff in there.
Yeah, well, definitely we're gonna cover the appendices.
Yeah.
Probably starting with Appendix M, like we
Right.
stated earlier.
Because that's obviously the most important
concerning
part.
mustaches.
Concerning mustaches. Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, awesome stuff, guys. Thank you to everyone
Yes.
who contributed to this episode.
Thank
Please
you.
keep it all coming.
Thank you for the haiku
We
and
love hearing from
for the
all of you.
correspondence. Absolutely. Let us know if you figure out what the secret word was. Send us a note at tolkienroadpodcast@gmail.com. First person to identify it gets to choose not next week's, but the one after that, the secret word for the one after that. So
Yep.
let's see what you got.
Yeah. And Shannon, if you want to pick the one for next week, shoot me an email.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. And thank you to our patrons. Thank you to Shannon Stockbridge, Josh Sosa, William Hutton, Brian Orr, Margaret Lyon, Emilio Perea, Zeke Farmer, Caleb Santana, and James Applegate. Y'all rock.
Totally.
Y'all rock. Y'all help make it happen. So we deeply and truly appreciate it. And if you'd like to become a patron of the Tolkien Road, head on over to tolkienroad.com or patreon.com/tolkienroad. And you can find out more, including all the cool stuff you'll get as a bonus.
So that sounds awesome.
All right. Good episode, Greta.
Good episode, John.
Party on.
Party on.
We'll talk at you next time, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye. Please remember to check out truemyths.org and tolkienroad.com for show notes and plenty of other Tolkien goodness. Also, if you're enjoying the podcast, would you please leave the Tolkien Road a rating and feedback on iTunes? It's a great way to support the show and takes less than a minute. On our next episode, we'll continue our discussion of Book 3 with the second half of Chapter 8. If you'd like to submit haiku for that episode, please send them to tolkienroadpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and until next time, the road goes ever on.